So we're going to get straight into it. I have wanted to do this for business leaders, for entrepreneurs, for upper management. I've wanted to have a podcast because I don't claim to be an expert on anything, Jay. I don't know about you, but that's why I brought the expert in this morning to help. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if I'm an expert, but I will give you my opinion on different things.
Absolutely. And, we want to cover a lot of topics that I think people have questions about very often and deal with on a very regular basis. My goal is to bring a tremendous amount of value to those types of individuals. I want to just start by asking you a little bit about Jay Sharpe.
Okay.
What do you do? I know you work with You Save It Pharmacy. Let's give the viewers some perspective on that.
Just a little perspective. I do work for You Save It Pharmacy. You Save It Pharmacy is a family-owned business. I moved here to Albany when I was 2 years old. I was born in Dublin, Georgia, came to Albany. One of the earliest recollections that I have was with my dad. He's a very hard worker. And I remember as a little kid playing with my toys in the back room of the store.
You never aggravated him at all, did you?
Oh, never. A perfect child. But I remember doing that after 6 o'clock. My mom and I would go up there, and he would do all the things that it took to run the business.
Which was so easy, right?
Oh, no doubt about it. So from an early age, I remember just seeing hard work being demonstrated.
Wait. I thought there was a trick. How many pharmacies are there now? For the viewers.
Well, and that's the thing. It went from one. Right now we have approximately 36 that we have part ownership
End
in.
of demo. Then all we need is the tricks, man.
No doubt about it.
What are the tricks? Is there shortcuts? Are there tricks? Like what can people find out about how that happened?
I don't think there are many tricks. I think there are some principles though that you can take and apply that can make your life easier. And it actually can make your work a more pleasant environment.
Come on.
Okay.
Let's hear some.
Yeah, well,
what about customer experience, man?
Okay.
That's a topic I see a lot of people talking about. How do we provide a better experience to our customers?
Well, I believe the key to providing a good experience for your customers is, number one, that your coworkers, whether it be your employees or ownership, management, whatever it may be, they have to understand the importance of it. And this is, I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. There have been times that I'll be on 75 and I'll be driving down the road and I'll get hungry or maybe 75. Have to.
Oh, I hate it.
Maybe I'll have to stop for the restroom. And I remember this one specific time that as I was driving, and the problem is some exits have like 50 places, some of them have none. Well, I had to go, and finally I saw one that it had one specific stop. So I went into the place, and from the very second that I pulled in, I said, you know what, this is going to be a bad experience.
Did it look shady from the outside?
Oh, the grass was unkept. As I opened the door, there were cigarette butts everywhere. I walked to the door. I put my hand on it. It was just greasy. There were.
Don't want to know what that was.
Oh yeah, exactly. There were handprints all over. Walked in. There was maybe one other customer, but when I looked over it, there were trash everywhere. There was ketchup and mustard on the tables. Went to the bathroom. I'll just say that it was not in service. So,
it was one where you would want to put toilet paper on the toilet seat.
Well, not only that, there was plenty of toilet paper inside of it.
Oh,
so
just little surprise.
Exactly. So I went to the front, and I looked at the person in front of me, and he looked like that I was the biggest inconvenience in his life.
Oh boy.
Not only that, the people, the fry guy and the drive-through person, they were yelling back and forth at each other. They were yelling. Well, I get my order, and guess what?
It was perfect.
Absolutely. No. it was all messed up. I didn't want I think I asked for no lettuce and they put lettuce on it. Not the end of the world. Well, I say that because we're in the pharmacy business. Now
you may have needed some medication after you ate this meal.
Oh, so yeah, no doubt about it. But in saying that, in the pharmacy business, we're not dealing with food. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with people's lives. So to us, customer experience means that people have to feel safe and secure knowing that our life is in their hands. So what we try to do, and sometimes we do a good job, sometimes we don't, but we try to help our coworkers, help our management to remember that fact. Hey, if your grandmother or if your child or if your wife or husband had medicine here, would you feel safe and secure knowing that their life was in our hands? So to me, customer experience, people have to internalize. People have to understand why they do what they do is so important. And when they realize that, you know what, they take a little bit more pride. Maybe they take nobody likes cleaning bathrooms. But if you understand why a clean bathroom will help somebody feel safe and secure as it relates to their health, then that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of move into this because I think this is something I've heard a lot about.
Right.
I've been in business now for about 7 years. I've been an entrepreneur for about 7 years. So this is something I've been in tune in. But let me ask you this question. Is good help hard to find?
Yes and no. And this is why I say that. Good, to me, two things. Number one, not every job is meant for every person at every time. I think one of the problems that when we have employment is we try to make everybody into some kind of cookie cutter person. And we try to make them exactly alike, like minions or robots or stormtroopers. We want them all this specific way. But the great thing about people is not everybody is alike. We have different personalities. We have different traits. We have different strengths, different weaknesses. So sometimes it's not necessarily finding a good person. It's trying to find the right person for that job in particular.
Does it help when the business owner or leadership team takes responsibility for that?
It sure does.
Because you hear a lot of them complaining. You do. You hear a lot of complaining. Good help's hard to find, especially business owners and leadership management teams a lot of times say, you hear them complain about that a lot. But whose responsibility is that, in your opinion?
I think that in saying that here, I want to add one thing. Some people are fit for more jobs than others. And I believe a lot of that is because of their influences. And I think that a lot of times that growing up, if you are taught, if you are trained, if you are shown the right way to do things, and if the culture around you, if that is the mindset of the people that surround you, you tend to become what you're surrounded with. So a lot of times when they say good people are hard to find, what I believe they mean by that is maybe that the people that they're coming in, they've got a lot of potential in the sense that they potentially could a lot of potential for growth. Now, the key is to help them to buy into that. Help them when they get in there to see where they are, but then also where they potentially can go.
So you kind of give them a roadmap.
No doubt about it. And that is the job of the business.
Let's talk about this for a second. So rather than giving them an ambiguous goal like, hey, we want you to be better, right? Or we want you to be further in the company, how important is it to give them like very specific goals?
Okay, well, I'll tell you one thing about goals. I think that a lot of times goals are good, but identity is better. And let me tell you what I mean by that. This morning, you called me and said, hey, are you coming for the podcast? Yeah. And I was like, oh, no.
Shake you up?
And
I didn't wake you up, though.
No. And I called you back because I felt bad because I was confused about when it was and what time it was. But did you notice I called you back and I was so apologetic and I said, man, I do not like wasting people's time.
I moved your name on the board too, just like in kindergarten.
Exactly. But that's why, let me tell you why I give you that example. Because growing up, one of the things that my father instilled into me was the importance of caring for somebody's time. So point being, that is a trait that has been developed in me. That's not something that I was born with. That is something that over time I was cultivated. Now, I could set a goal for everybody to be on time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Some people will, some people won't. But the key is to help people to see the value in caring for somebody's time.
Let me tell you something interesting.
Okay.
I didn't even expect you to be here this morning. This is something that I've learned. This podcast is something that I wanted to do.
Right.
It's just like a business owner, they want to start and run a business, whatever that may be. But I didn't even expect you to be here. I expected me to be here.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
No doubt.
I think a lot of times, and I've learned this, I think a lot of times business leaders, business owners, they expect their employees to care about what they do as much as they do.
Oh,
what
yeah.
do you think about that?
No doubt about it. And that's my point, is a lot of times we set goals for people to be on time, where in essence we want them to become a timely person.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference, because when you want to become a timely person, that means that there really doesn't need to be a goal to be on time at work, because it goes without being said.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, at You Save It, we've tried to instill in, hey, we got to value each other's time. If somebody's late, you got to realize that that's hurting your coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
When people are on their lunch break and they're trying to get back, and we're not able to get them what they need in a timely manner, that affects them. And the goal is to try to get them to see it through the other person's eyes. Is, hey, if you were in their shoes, how would that make you feel? If you're on your lunch break, do you value your time? Well, we need to value their time as well.
So you kind of give them a kind of an open floor of, like, if you're going to ask them questions, like if you're going to talk to an employee or team member, and instead of just hammering them down with what you feel like is right, do you give them the opportunity to give you their perspective?
No doubt about it. The key I have learned in helping to motivate someone is, number one, give someone a voice. If you're trying to get somebody to be a certain place, and they're not at that place, then there's a reason they're not at that place. So the goal is not to try to push them to get to that place. The goal is to help them to see the reason why being at the other place is better for them individually and then collectively for the whole. So in order to do that, they must buy in to what you're saying. Now, the problem is, a lot of times in business, we try to use directives and say, hey, if you do not do this, then. Well, they may do it, but they don't buy into it. Now, that works if you can be in their presence at all times. I'll give you an example. There's a movie Friday. Have you ever seen the movie Friday?
Unfortunately, I have, yes.
and there's a scene in Friday where...
Don't watch it if you're under the age of 30.
That's right. But there's a scene in Friday where Chris Tucker says that I play mind games with Debo. Basically, his point being is that he'll do what Debo says when he's around him. But when Debo's gone away, he says and does what he wants to do. Well, that's kind of how employees are. If they don't buy in to what you're telling them to do, they'll do it as long as somebody's watching them. Now, if you can get them to buy into it when nobody is watching, if they can see the value and the importance of it, then it's a lot easier. So, but you got to see where they're coming from. You got to understand where they're at. And once you understand where they're at, they'll be more apt to listen to you as well.
Yeah, and so going all the way back to the hiring process.
Yes.
Like, how do we identify some of these things, some of these traits and some of these types of individuals that maybe not are changeable, that I don't know if that's the right word, but have potential to do things and learn things that maybe they don't think like where they're at right now?
I think hiring process is more you selling what you're all about to the potential person coming on your team than it is about you trying to find out where that person is. It's got to be a fit from both directions. So a lot of times what we do in a hiring process is we try to find out a lot about the person, but we do not necessarily share a lot about us.
So how important is their work history?
It is important.
As it pertains to their success with your company.
Work history, it depends. Depends on the position. For instance, for a pharmacist, they have to have the proper training to be able to fill that position.
They can't just make cocktails of drugs.
Right. I mean,
off the street.
I can't hire anybody. We cannot hire anybody to be a pharmacist.
That's a different type of pharmacist.
No doubt about it. Yeah, they have to have they have to have gone through the process to be where they need to be. Now, other jobs maybe not so much, but what I try to look for when I'm hiring somebody, does this person buy in to where we're trying to go?
How do you differentiate between just hot breath that's coming out of their mouth and, truth?
It's hard. And that's the whole thing is the thing about interviews is everybody, if you're trying to get a job, you are going to say what needs to be said to be heard. So the goal is to be able to potentially share your values and help to see if those people share those same values. So you have to begin to share your values in the front end, and then ask them kind of questions relating to your values, but don't necessarily say, hey, this is, you see what I'm saying? You have to see if those values align with how they feel.
Yeah, so down the road you've got some pretty good employees. Sometimes they, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. How do you keep employees motivated?
They must understand what we're doing and why we're doing it is important. If they don't, then they're not going to be motivated.
So you have meetings, you have weekly meetings, monthly meetings?
We do not. What I try to do in the stores that I normally work at, I tell people, try to make it very simple. I tell them, this is my goal. I want everybody that walks in the back door. I want everybody that walks in the front door, no matter what they're going on outside of the walls of You Save It. When they come into You Save It, I want this to be a place that's a safe haven, that they feel safe, they feel secure, and they feel like they can get away. So in order to do that, we must have a culture where we care for each other and that we care for our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can buy into that, therefore when two people are maybe having an argument, you can bring them aside and say, hey, look, is this helping our environment where this is a safe place for you and then also the customer? So
you have some, and this is just fake, this is just a scenario here.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about anybody in particular, but so you have some employees that started out great, but they're just sucking. They're just terrible. They've turned, it's not going to work out. How important is it to show those employees empathy, but still be able to fire them in a very, empathetic, humble way?
Well, there are two things. Number one, is it our fault?
First question.
So the number one thing is to see, were the conditions that they were put under, were they fair to them? And the way you do that is you give them voice. You want to give them the opportunity to hear their side, to see what's going on. Now, some cases that is not the problem. The problem is the actual person. That and like I said, not every job is the right fit for the right person every time. So sometimes whether it's the job was not for them, then in that case, hey, we enjoyed having you, but I don't think you're going to be happy here. I don't think this works out best for the team. We're not able to do what we want to do in the sense of making this place a safe haven. So it's probably best that you find somewhere else.
Man, Jay, that's what I love so much about the marketplace is the marketplace does not lie. As a business owner, we're in the marketplace for good employees. Or as business leaders or management, we're in the marketplace for good employees. Consumers are in the marketplace for good products and good service. I love that about the marketplace, though, and I think if we're willing to listen, I think it's really hard sometimes when you're running an organization, whatever size, or you're a business owner, it's hard to see like an employee that's doing so terrible. It's hard to listen to them. It's hard to gather information from them. What would you say to people that have a hard time with that?
Number one, do some introspection. Number one, the thing that I've learned, and I mean, whether you are a Christian, it's a biblical principle. Do not. The biblical principle is, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eyes and pay no attention to the plank that is in your own eye? And basically what that means is it's very easy to see a speck in somebody else's eye, but the problem is when we have a big 2x4 in our eye, we can't see to take it out. So what the verse tells us to do is essentially we got to get that 2x4 out of our eye first, and then it says we can see clearly to be able to help remove the speck of our brother's eye. What we tend to do is human nature. What we all do is we can point out faults in other people very easy.
Judgment.
But it's very hard to find the faults in ourselves.
Judgment. Same.
It's very hard. So point being is, number one, if there's a problem with someone, is there a 2x4 in my eye? Number one.
Right.
Number two, if there is, I need to get it out. But there's still a problem with someone. It doesn't say that there's no problem. There is a speck in their eye.
Sure.
But the key is to see clearly to help them.
I'm just going to say it. You know, I own a marketing company.
Correct.
And I have had a tremendous amount of business owners come into this office, sit in that boardroom with me, and say, man, I need an advertising campaign. Sure. Why? Because we can't find good people. It has happened so many times. It's very difficult for me because when we have discovery meetings in here, we listen.
Yes.
We don't say a whole lot. You know, we try to respect the fact that we don't know anything about these people or their company or anything. But it happens all the time. Man, we need to do an advertising campaign. We need more billboards. We need more TV ads. We need more of this because we just can't find and keep good people. It's amazing.
And here's my question to them. What are the companies that seem to be thriving in your area doing differently than you that they are able to function successfully?
You don't think a billboard can change that?
Well,
I'm
well, no, and that's the thing, and that deals with introspection.
Well, it's funny because it's like if you don't have a good company culture, a billboard's just going to get you locked up in jail.
Right.
You know what I mean? If the more money you're spending on attracting people, it's going to make your turnover even worse because you're going to drive more people there, and you know the foundation might be the problem. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, the problem might be you. Who are
and that's
you?
Okay. I mean, it happens. We're human beings. I mean, this is something that we've all dealt with, right?
No doubt about it. And that's another question is you have to define who you are. And one of the problems I see, and that's something we struggle with too, maybe we have competing visions. Maybe not everybody sees everything in the same way. So the problem, though, is you have to be able to unite in order to, if you were management, if you were leadership, if y'all have to, I think Jim Collins says you have to be on the same bus going the same direction with the right people.
Yes.
The problem, if you have two bus drivers, one of them grabs the wheel and going that way, and the other one's grabbing the wheel and going this way, then that's going to trickle down to the rest of the staff. So to me, marketing, the best marketing you can do is an internal method, and essentially is finding out who you are. And then once you find out who you are, is manifesting that out to the community.
So do you have a book or some material that our viewers can kind of read or listen to that you would recommend on this subject?
Oh, there are many books.
Let's give them one.
One book that I've really enjoyed that has helped me a lot is a book called Switch.
Chip and Dan Heath?
Chip and Dan Heath. And anything by Chip and Dan Heath I've really enjoyed. What I like about it is very practical, very applicable. What I like about that book is it helps to explain the way that people think. It uses an illustration of an elephant and a rider, and that's basically our brain. And it talks to us about how those different conditions in our brain can make it hard to change, but how to get the elephant and the rider aligned together to bring about change. So to me, if you were having a problem in your business, or if you're having any kind of problem in your life, you need to change. So in order to change, you must know the most effective and efficient way to change. And that book does a great job in explaining that.
That's awesome. And man, I'm so excited you were my first guest.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And we're going to be coming back to you guys with some more episodes very soon. We're going to try to do this on a weekly basis. Got some more interviews today. Looking forward to it. And Jay, Thank you so much for stopping by.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.